Okay, so we've been seeing about fragments. We're going to continue the last exercise. The last exercise contained an action bar specific tab. I mean, a tab is created and managed by an action bar, and we also had a view pager. Inside the view pager, we loaded two fragments. One fragment was containing a list view, another fragment was containing a to edit box, and one a submit button or something like. So we put them in view pager, as well as we connected it with a tab, so that when the user move between and press between the tabs, the view pager loaded the specific fragment. So an example was looking like this. So we have two tabs, list and compose. Below to that there is a view pager. View pager can load various fragments in a horizontal way. So the topmost one, the one which is loaded first is getting displayed, and another one could be seen after we swipe. And of course, the view pager has loaded both the fragments, but one is visible, another one is hidden, and accordingly the tab selection also getting modified, because we had a view page change listener, which changes the selection of tabs. And of course, by pressing tabs also I can move between different fragments. While doing this fragment, we also understood the requirement to pass data between fragments, and sometime a data has to be passed from fragment 1 to 2, or fragment 2 to 1, I mean vice versa. But there are various ways to achieve, because the fragments are nothing but an object of activity only. So there is no restriction like moving between a different activity, because it's one of the object of an activity. So the standard practice of a Java, like how we treat the object, is more than enough to handle the data between the fragments. And of course, we saw a best practice point of view. We had an interface to handle the job. Instead of two fragments directly send the data between them, what we had done is have an interface. So any fragment, anything it want to send it to another fragment, it has to send to the host activity, activity which is hosting the fragment, and the host activity, through the host activity will send the data to another fragment. So both the fragment would be reporting to the host activity alone. It won't directly call any object of a different fragment. That was a best practice I recommended, but it doesn't mean you should not use that another way. If you notice the fragment called compose, which accesses the other fragment. If you notice, the SMS list is another fragment. So through the activity object, it is accessing the other fragment method and send the data, send and receive the data. Of course, it is getting the data, it's setting the data here. This is one way. In this case, we don't need any interface or any in-between class to handle our transaction. Whereas another example, I had a SMS list. I handled the data. I reported the particular event of my list item clicks to the host activity through an interface. If you notice, an interface instance called handle callback is there. Of course, since it is an interface, I cannot initialize because it is a incomplete block, but the interface instance has been implemented in the host activity. We verify whether the host activity contained the interface implemented. If that implemented, we give the object value or reference here. Through the reference, we are calling a method of interface that will be called in activity, host activity. This is slightly a roundabout way, but it gives us a various control. Now I'm going to redo, of course, because I need to clean it up. That's what I have two different strategies put in this code. And in fact, I even said the second one I'm slightly inspired. I feel that is a good one. So I'm going to recreate the project. Of course, one more time I'll explain what is a fragment and how things work, and what are the ways to have the fragments on board, and what kind of benefit it is going to give us. Fragments, as we know, it gives us the ability to fragment our view, a look and feel. If you see, uh, Android devices, the screen size ranges from small form factor to tablet form. In fact, desktop form also we have. So sometime we may need to address the screen size restriction as well as the greater screen size available for tablets. So in this case, if we could design our UI in such a way as a small chunks or fragments, and if at all a space is available, we can load the fragment so that we can make use of available space effectively. If there is no space, we will load only one fragment and keep the other fragment based on the button clicks or anything is done. So this kind of a design pattern is called fragment. Previously what we did is we had an activity and we call set content view. The set content view will have a composite view, like it had every widgets and everything. So one single design we had, and we had a great difficulty when a particular screen size increases or decreases. We have to plan, or maybe we cannot give you a different look and feel for a tablet version or any other phones or any other devices just having a bigger screen. We could only maintain landscape portrait or maybe slightly a different look and feel, but did not give us much control. So now we slightly adapted a new design pattern, like we are using fragments. I'm creating a particular view as a composite, created from a composite fragment. For example, one or more fragment put together gives me a complete look and feel. So everything I'm going to put it inside the fragment. Fragment is nothing but a class, and it works as if an activity, but slightly different life cycle. But since it is inside the activity itself, so the entire life cycle is within the activity only, because all fragments are getting implemented inside the host activity. I'm saying this activity name as a host activity because the activity which is holding the fragment is considered as a host activity, which is hosting or giving a space for the fragment to work. So the activity which is hosting the fragment will have its own life cycle, which we already know. It starts from on create, on destroy, it just goes. Similarly, a fragment which is added inside the activity has its own fragment, or sorry, own life cycle. Typically, I can say it has on attached to on detach up to, and overall they probably, once I start writing the code or once I start repeating the code, we'll come to know. We'll probably discuss that again. So I'm right now trying to write an application called SMSReplier 1.0 already means, or maybe 1.1, where I want to have a slightly different UI look and feel, which is going to auto respond to an SMS for anyone sent. It will automatically respond with a predefined messages what I'm going to set now. So if at all you are entering into an office or meeting, make sure you open an app and set your selection to in meeting and just forget about it. Anyone who SMS you will get a reply stating that whatever the message you have composed, it will automatically send a reply. So that was the point. We already covered like what is broadcast receiver, how to intercept the incoming SMS, and how to retrieve how to retrieve the content, and of course send a reply back to the person who has just SMS'd you. So I'm going to integrate them, but before I want to have a slightly modified way of handling the UI. That's what I integrated fragments here. The fragment, once you get inspired, you will always try to have the fragments on board. You may sometimes forget about your conventional UI designing. It doesn't mean it is positive or negative, I could say, but if your intention to address vast number of devices which is having a various form factors, Fragments gives you much more better control over your UI. And once we cover the fragment, we are done with the activity. In fact, uh, we do not have anything to cover on it. Maybe very few areas we need to touch, like a content provider, shared database, how to handle, how to handle your maybe your categories or launchers, how to have your application shareable. For example, in the gallery, if you notice, the share button would be there in your photo gallery. You might have noticed. Once you click it, various options will come. In that, you may find message, Facebook, or some application, Dropbox, or any application user. How do I list my application also over there? So those kind of small snippet part we may have it. But once we are done with the fragment, the major part is over, and it's up to you to have a consolidated design. And I already told you I have a complete web service written for a banking system, a mock banking system. So that was the project I'm going to give to you once I complete the activity on few parts of service and broadcast receiver. Then it's your project. I'll give you a requirement spec document, and I'll give you the scenario what would be in your real development side. So the document would be given to you, and you have to start your development. Start from wireframing to and have your product with the alpha beta releases and release candidate, and then finally release the product. So these things we are going to do, and of course we have covered 1 month of training program already. So then the subsequent section is going to be on the advanced side. So we are no more beginners, or we are no more amateur developers. We are already into an active development. So of course the concept what I'm going to talk slightly, it may be suitable for the person who is into active development already. Because in fact I asked how far you guys are comfortable with object-oriented program. A lot of people said yes, fine, we are fine, now we are cool. Now it's the time to test it. Now all interfaces and all, what do you say, the overloading, overriding, everything will come here. And we are going to see them, what kind of a useful thing it is going to give me on, as far as doing a modular approach, maintaining a modular approach on my development. Okay, so of course these are all the storytelling part. I'm going to create an application. I assume most of the people have a API version 20 alone. So I'm sorry, yes, of course 20. Or 19? 19 I hope. Okay. So I'm also going to maintain the same thing, like one obvious reason, because that action bar tab is no more supported. Of course, it is in the deprecated state in an API level 21, or lollipop we popularly call. So of course I need, of course it will work on 21 as well, but maybe over the period of time, maybe down the line 1 or 2 years, maybe they'll completely remove the action bar. Not the action bar, maybe the tab, action bar navigation. Navigation, something like tabs or list, something which is there. So for that, not to have that kind of a problem, I'm just going back to API level 19. I'm going to keep everything 19. Let it be minimum level 2.2, since if you are having a problem like app compact package which is getting added in your project, not necessary to be panicked, because that adds a backward compatibility for various previous versions starting from API level 4. So that actually helps you, of course, in order to give a entire same look and feel across down the line. You may devices as well. But some of Eclipse version has some sort of bug stating that every time the app compact package is recreated, and every time when we create an application, if you want to avoid that step, you can very well go and have the API level 14 ICS, like ice cream sandwich. So that will make sure that additional package is not created for you. So your application will have a Only the problem is going to have a minimum required SDK set to 14, so it cannot support the backward compatibility when you export and create an APK. Last time we had an issue of exporting an APK which is having a backward compatibility thing, that I will fix it now. I'll show how to fix that. So we will see how we can add the backward compatibility on other way of exporting a package which is supporting the minimum SDK up to 8, I mean from 8. So I'm going to keep it to 2.2. So SMSReplier. The previous project itself had a version 1.1, but I had a different name. Okay, something. Custom launcher. Okay, let us have some sort of launchers. And clicking next. I'm particularly interested on this one. This will do. We are fine with the blank activity because already we have a option to have a high-level application with the fragment on board or master detail flow. Everything is a template base which is already there. But of course, we are trying to create the same only, but it would be nice we create from the scratch. So that's the reason I always opt for having a blank activity to start with. The main activity, I think it sounds good. Still, bugs are not looking like clear. Okay. I really don't know. Sometimes this lot of backward compatible things have highly messed up the Android default project creation process. I'm really not comfortable with that, but still we have to depend. One attribute is missing. I really don't know what is that. We'll close the other examples. I should have the app compat package alone open for this. I don't know. We shift Android versions to slightly lower one, or maybe higher one. It doesn't fix. If nothing fix, the one final workaround what IBM recommends always, restart. It's a documented fix for a developers. IBM recommends if any product doesn't work, if it is a software product or hardware product, the reset will reset everything. So restarting would be a fix as well. So doing that. Still the same errors. I'm going to remove the troublemaking folder maybe. It's coming from up compact V7. That is the worrying one. Let me delete both the projects. I'll recreate from the scratch. Since I do not have app compact, so it will recreate for me. So say a light or something. Same method. It's all backward compatible stuff. I don't know which one is troublemaking one here. Material. This may give me a trouble still, but now it moved to 11. No more interested. I'll come back to that a little later. I'll move to a least version set to 14. It's unnecessarily waste our time. Okay, so it's pretty breeze now. No, I do not have any problem. I have my app compact file is closed. The project is closed now. Okay, so the conventional practice, we need to verify it runs. Okay, it's working. So I need to recreate the previous one, so let me start the procedures. this is the main activity. In that I am going to add a pager, view pager. We often say view pager is a horizontal list view kind of thing. So it's kind of thing, don't calculate that it's the same one. A list view is something like a one by one vertical alignment, the view is being repeated, whereas a view pager repeats the view horizontally. The view pager can load more or for example, different views or same views. I mean, fragments. In order to say instead of view, I would say fragments. A view pager can load more than one or any number of fragments, and each fragment can be accessed by duly swiping the particular view pager left and right. The first one would be displayed. The remaining one, as you swipe, you can see the views. We reproduce the similar one using like a gallery example application. So we saw the multiple fragments loaded as we swipe, and finally we saw the gallery look and feel one. So first I need to make sure my activity main contains a view pager instead of this one. Okay. View pager is available as a support package, so you cannot find most of the time. The suggestion would not land here. See, if you see, there is no view pager. View flipper is, we don't use it now, so we use view pager instead. So I do not know in which path the view pager has got implemented. So I usually find this small workaround to find where a specific support package I need to know first thing. Android support V4 app. Okay, so this is the path of a view pager. So I'm going to it's going to be only the view pager. In my view, I'm going to copy the schema or whatever definitions are there. I'm going to copy it, and I don't need the other one, so I'll remove them. Give an ID for it. So a view pager is there in a layout called activity main. So a view pager will be loaded inside this activity. I can initialize the view pager in a very usual way. Page. So the view pager is ready for us. Now time to get the action bar instance. For example, action bar got added in Android API version 3.0, which API is considered as 11, I hope. From there, action bar has come to a various changes. Right now Android recommends to keep an action bar, and of course the option menu is displayed on the action bar alone nowadays, because most recent phone does not come up with the hardware menu buttons. It doesn't come up with the hardware menu buttons, so only 3 buttons are right now kept default. So Android recommends us to keep an action bar so that a user would be given additional menu choices. So action bar instance can be called like this way: get action bar, If at all you are using the previous, if you are adding the app compared package and you have some what we said 2.2 minimum support mean, make sure this activity is made as a action bar activity. That will add a backward compatible for the previous version. Since I have selected version 14 as a minimum, which has the action bar option built in, so I don't need to use the action bar activity. It's already added in the activity. So action bar, I can, let me see, it's already there. An action bar, a title is already present for you. An action bar, this particular part is considered as a home, where your logo and your application name is displayed. Depending on the theme, it may vary. I can treat it as a button as well. So set home button enabled. If you set to true, this, if you notice, see, this part becomes clickable. It became as a button. So if you really need it as a button, you can have it. Otherwise, you can set it fast. Otherwise, you don't define that as well. We are going to use it for our navigation back button. So if at all I create another activity, I may use it. And since I'm going to have a tab here, I'm not going to need this particular menu. If you do not want this menu to appear here, you can very well remove the on create option menu implementation here. You can simply remove that. Let it be on option selected, because already home button is there. That will also be called here. So again, I have removed that. So we verify. This is slightly a longer exercise, so make sure you guys concentrate. So now the menu does not appear here. The menu icon or whatever, which gives us here a small drop down kind of thing, doesn't appear. If you do not require, you can have that part removed. Okay, so now we have to attach the fragments. Before having the fragment, I'll have the tab also created for me. So action bar has the ability to attach or have a tab based navigation as well. For that, we need to make sure action bar set navigation mode to navigation mode tab. If you notice, most of the constants are available to the parent or the class itself. I usually do this way. So for example, since I'm doing something specific to action bar class, if any constants are there, it will be there inside the action bar class itself. So it's a small conventional practice. So I'm saying that the action bar is going to contain a tab based navigation. And now time to create a tab. Add tab will add a tab. So I need a tab here. So first I'll create the tabs. Tab 1. Oh, ho, ho, ho. From the action bar instance itself, new tab option is there. Okay, so tab 1, setting the text, some SMS list, whatever. Tab listener also we need to attach. Without the tab listener, action bar tab cannot be attached. I've seen an error, but let me try without a tab listener. So first tab has got created and create the second tab instance as well. Compose. So attach those tabs. The order mean the very first tab will be tab 1 and the tab 2 is being added to an action bar. You notice if any error comes, so this is the error expected. Your log will clearly say of course the reason is without a tab listener an action bar cannot get attached to it, so a tab listener I'm going to implement it here instead of tab listener specific to action bar. Okay, it's an interface and it has an abstract methods and those got implemented. I'm particularly interested on this particular method or on tab selected, but still fine. Set tab listener set to this. So now a tab with the tab listeners attached. So two tabs got added, and those getting highlighted if you notice, but since we do not have any content, we couldn't see that working. This part works, it should be as far as the Windows shortcut, maybe function F11 or F12 will make sure your emulator is set to landscape format. Of course, I'm not going to need for this project, maybe the next project, what I'm going to have a different layout for a landscape and different layout for a portrait. That time this part need to be tested. So make sure if your shortcut works and your emulator tilt accordingly. If it doesn't, we will find out what is the shortcode. I've noticed some emulator does not, even though it becomes a landscape, it does not recreate the view, it still maintains a portrait one. So there are some issues, but updating emulator, of course my emulator runs on 5.0, a preview version, it doesn't have that error. Okay, so tabs were added. Now time to add the fragments. The pager also should contain an event listener set on page change listener. Okay, that also better I'll keep it here so not to, to avoid the confusion, because we do not know whether the interface methods are for tab or for pager. So having it implemented here gives me at least, okay, so this is something to do with the view page. In this case I'm interested on the on page selected method. Okay, so we need to create fragments now, because the view pager can load a fragment inside, and of course one or more fragment it can load. A fragment is a chunk of your UI. That's it. I mean, a part of your UI. It's not the full UI, or you can still treat it as a fully created UI. But right now I'm going to consider it as a part of your UI. So this SMS list fragment, the name I'm giving. Extends fragment. Import the one which is to do with the support package, because of course I want to add the backward compatibility to 2.2 also, but due to some reason my project did not create, so I'm still not leaving. So I want to keep maintain everything in the support package itself except the action bar. The reason is I had to select higher API. So a fragment is having its own activity or fragment lifecycle start from on attach method. This is the very first one to be called whenever a fragment is about to get attached. So it's get attached to a activity. The final one is detach. It is no more attached to a activity. So in between there are various methods. So attach to detach your fragment maintains. On attach gives you a confirmation that your fragment is successfully attached to a UI, but still view is not ready. No objects have been initialized. It's only a confirmation. It gives the instance of the host activity. If at all required, you can use it in your program. And one I'm interested again is on create. This is a block where you can initialize your data members, or if at all any bundle objects are there, time to open it. Of course already a bundle available. Of course we'll see what is saved instance. We've been doing and we have been seeing this quite longer time. We have to see what kind of a way it is going to benefit us. Maybe in the fragment itself I can give it a better example. So time to, if at all any data members or any parcel level bundles coming, time to open it here or have it initialized. On create view, which we'll be using it most of the time. This null level stuff you just remove. This adds a unnecessary import and spoil the signature. So on create view is a place where you inflate your layout. This is the where you are going to initialize your layout and its members, objects, for example widgets. You may consider it is equivalent to on create of activity, where we do set content view initialize our specific widgets with a find view by ID, something like that. But in this case we have to do it through layout inflation, but this is pretty much one is something where layout inflation and respective initialization of widgets happen. On activity created, and as usual it goes, but I don't want to do on start and other stuff. Maybe I can see on resume. So up to that your application goes through various stages. So this is from here it starts and goes to on create, call on create view, on activity created, confirms the view is created, and on start would say I just removed it, I don't want that. Maybe too much of understanding on the life cycle of fragment is not going to give us much benefit at this point. So on resume up to here it stops. If the application goes to pause or stop, we already know this life cycle. So if our application is about to get pause, I mean it goes into if someone clicks on the home button, it will come up to on stop, and again we'll go back to on resume and we'll be shifting in between that. It's a similar to your activity lifecycle. If at all it is about to get destroyed, or when a view is entirely or the application is about to get closed, it will call on destroy, and finally it will call on detach. So this is a simplistic life cycle of a fragment. The fragment, even though it starts with on attach and on detach, it looks like various life cycle it has. Remember, this is inside an activity. So activity lifecycle is a bigger one. The activity holds this particular fragment. So within the activity lifecycle, these things are being rotated. So in this case, the activity lifecycle becomes a wrapper for it, and inside the fragment is placed. So on attached to on detached will be inside the activity lifecycle only. So you have to think in such a way. On destroy of this particular fragment would have been called much before the on destroy of activity, because that's the final one for an activity, but this on destroy would be called after that only. The activity, the host activity on destroy would be called. So like that, there is a small limitation, and of course the fragment life cycle is within the activity life cycle. You're not going to need everything. That's what for our understanding I kept everything, but I'm not, for this project I do not need this much. I'm going to remove them. Maybe on attach create and on create view I'll keep it up to here. If at all required, I'll put others. Okay. So now start creating our UI. We have to make sure our layout files are ready. I'm going to copy them from the previous exercise. So I don't know what my fragment example I gave, I remember. First part, I start with the strings file because that's where I have hard coded some string values. So I'll copy from here to this. Okay, then the layouts. I have two fragment views created for me already. It's nothing, the name is containing as a fragment, but it is quite what's a familiar one. This one has a linear layout, a text view and a list view. So linear layout, vertical orientation, keep everything. So this particular, the very first fragmented view is going to contain a text view and a list view below to it. So this is the one I created and named it as a SMS list fragment. The second one, which I am going to use it for a composing message, which is a message where the user will receive as an automatic reply based on the selections what I have done. It's having a text view, an edit text view, edit text, and a button. I have used a relative layout, so accordingly layout above below I have kept it to achieve this UI. So this is the second UI for the fragment called compose, which I'm about to create. So activity method, we already know it has a view pager, having an ID called this one, which has got already been initialized here. The view pager has got initialized. Let us go back to SMS list fragment. A final view should be returned. So let's see, first we'll create the final view, maybe view or view group or whatever. I'm going to say it as a view. Okay. Let us initialize the layout. So since the host activity already contains a layout, the additional layout should be inflated. So already instance of layout inflator available here, so I just need to inflate it. r.layout.sms list fragment, which is the fragment which for example I'm going to display in view pager, the first fragment which I'm going to display. So it is the root is container, which is available as an argument, Attached rule we are setting to false because there is no need to attach the view, the inflated view with the parent view. We're just going to inflate on the top. So this is the initialization part. So now at this point, this fragment, if at all gets loaded, it will load this particular UI into the host activity. I haven't initialized anything, but I have to verify whether it is loading. The main activity contains a view pager. A view pager is kind of a view, or it can repeat a particular view. In this case, I'm going to say them as a fragment. So a fragments or set of fragments it can load. So first thing, I need to have the fragments initialized. Only one fragment as of now I have created. SMS list fragment. Any other fragment which I initialize or which I use, I will initialize later. The pager is needs an adapter, same like a list view. So the adapter for a pager I'm going to create some name extends fragment state pager adapter, which is a kind of a base adapter which gives some sort of kind of a blueprint to have a adapter specification for a pager. It requires an default constructor to be implemented, which expects a parameter called fragment manager, and of course other abstract methods, one method being a get item, another being get count. So this I'll make it as a position, so for our better understanding. How many views you want to load, depending on that you can give a count. In this case I have only created one fragment. As of now I'll keep it 1, and I'll also make sure if a position, this will repeat inside same like an adapter. If a position is 0, return SMS. So SMS list of fragment is not global. I need to make it global. I made it as a global here. Else I will create the other fragment a little later. So the very first fragment loads the adapter. So now the view pager time to get attached to an adapter. Pager set adapter new. My pager adapter requires get support fragment manager. So this activity does not have it. I'm making it as a fragment activity because I need a support fragment. Get support fragment manager instance needed that the fragment activity contains. So the fragment manager, I already told you, manager classes in Android gives the utility methods for the respective work it implements. In this case, the fragment manager is something to do with the view, and it has the support libraries. So support manager, because it is support, the word support is there because we are calling from support package, which gives a backward compatibility. If at all you are not calling them, if you have a higher API if you are using it, you can simply call get framework manager. So get fragment manager. Of course, I'm still have a lower level backward compatibility requirement, so I'm using support fragment manager. Now the adapter has been set, and this should attach the very first fragment when this adapter is repeated loaded. Of course, only once it's going to. So very first view should have been loaded. Time to test. Okay, there is no list so far, but anyway, the text appeared. So it's not tab, it's actually tap. It's typo. Okay, so this fragment is having a list view. So time to initialize that list view. This view is found within the inflated layout. So view dot find view by id r dot id dot. I remember I gave a name SMS list. Verify it. Yes, SMS list. Yeah, of course, a list would need a an adapter to populate the data. The last exercise I had a hash map of kind of array list. I'm thinking about having that on board because hash map would need key value pair. So this time I'm going to keep it in the main activity instead of the so two key on create would be the best block to initialize my values, which I'm going to display on the list view. I'm going to keep the data member private, the array list. So array list of hash map. I'm going to use a simple adapter. SMS messages. Saving to database is a second problem right now. We'll hard code some values so that it could be displayed. Hard coding a value, so of course I'll use a hash map. Title message something, a message I'm composing which I would be sending, and finally attaching to a SMS message array list. So same thing I'm going to repeat for another message. It's a hard-coded value, so okay, some message. If you want one more, okay, we'll add them. Rest we'll add in the dynamically. Now simple adapter. We know the simple adapter, how it works. So first one, it need a context. Context can be called using get activity inside a fragment. Will give you an instance of a host activity, and the data, of course, the SMS message, the resource, the layout which I'm going to inflate on the top of this list view. I'm going to use it from an Android resource library. Simple list item, single choice, because that will add a small radio button. So one message is selected, which is actually a default message, in which the reply would be sent. A string, let me break it up. These things we already know. So this is where the key, only one text I'm going to display. So title alone I'm going to display. The default key for a single view simple list item selected layout is ID text1. This ID you may verify that in a platform folder of your SDK. So this will be the ID, and attach that to that. We also have a list fragment which has a built-in feature for an adapter, that also you can make use of it, but as of now, like same like list activity, you can use a list fragment, but I've used only the base fragment now. An adapter, I want to keep the adapter so global because I can update it if a new list item has got added. An adapter has got added, so we have to verify whether it loads the data or not. And of course, since it is a single choice, I need to tell the list view also. SMS list set choice mode set to choice mode single. Otherwise, the particular radio button or checkbox won't shift or toggle between them. Okay. Now a list view has got created and two predefined messages, and I can maintain a choice because the list view is having a list view single choice mode selected. Looks like a radio button, shift between both messages. If at all, if you add another message, I mean a list, it will toggle between these three. Okay. Now it is added. Time to move on to another fragment, which we want to give an option to the user to compose this particular message. In this case, we have hard coded. Let us give the option the user can compose the same. New class. Some name, compose message fragment. As usual, we know we are going to need on create, maybe if not on create view This is the same way. SMS compose fragment, and this is the container, and we want it to float instead of attached. Sorry, I need to return. The fragment is ready. Now time to attach it to the host activity. Same way. Now I have two fragments. In the view pager, I load the other fragment as well and make the count to 2 because two fragments are going to get loaded. Now if I swipe, the other fragment is becoming visible. The view pager loaded both the fragments, but one made it one to visible, another one is getting visible as you swipe. Of course, I need to make it working so that I compose a message and a title and message. When I hit save, it should add an entry here. And also a view pager should synchronize with the tab selection as well, because right now I'm a first fragment. If I swipe it to a second fragment, it should highlight the compose. Right now it doesn't synchronize with that. Similarly, clicking the tabs should also change the view pager active content. So that part we'll fix it right now. We have already implemented necessary listeners. So the pager listens which page is active. I need an action bar to set a global. I'll also keep the action bar initialized after the pager. Set navigation, selected navigation item set to the position. Make it as a position. Okay. So when page is selected, automatically action bar will highlight to the right one. We'll test that. So sorry, I have moved to a second fragment. Now it is highlighting the second tab, so I can move between them. My swipe is slightly bad. Okay, so now it is highlighting the right tab, but still the tab is not synchronized. So now tab change listener, tab listener, or which something. So they're on tab selected. Now move the pager. Pager should be global at this point. Set the current item. Current item to the respective get position from the tab. Whatever the tab position, automatically the specific fragment, the same indexed fragment would be loaded. So now Hitting the tab will load the respective fragment. So I can use the tabs or as well as I can use the swipe. Both I can use, also both have been synchronized. Okay, now time to make this compose message populating the list view. So this fragment has option to compose a message, and data should be taken to the first fragment and should get updated. I have two edit texts inside, so let me make them. So it is called title. And give it the name title. This message. Refer the layout.sms compose fragment. I have given the same, and I also have a button. Just having a save. I think the same. As we know, the button will have a event click listener set on click listener. If you want to implement on the fragment class itself, you can do it, but this way also you can do. So now everything is fine. Now whatever message is composed, the message should alter the entries of the array list which is defined in the other fragment called SMS list fragment, because this array list is actually displaying the content. This way, this time I'm going to use a slightly roundabout way. As I said earlier, I want to handle this transaction through interface instead of directly accessing the object. It means both the fragments will report anything to host activity. The host activity will take care of transferring the control. So I'm going to need a class which will become a bridge between them. So that class is going to be an interface. We have option to pick a right one. Last time I gave a name handle callbacks because that sounds good. It's an interface, so interface is going to contain only abstract methods. What is the methods at all I would need? I will do it. This compose message fragment should bring the data to main activity. Typically it has a title and message to be sent to main activity. So on compose done as signature, I am giving two strings, title and message. When compose is done, this method will be called. The naming convention I follow not to be confused with the default methods. It is no more a default method, it's a custom made user defined one. So of course it is a public abstract. It's because it's an interface. Compose message fragment. So an interface cannot be initialized. So of course only declaration. While attaching it, on attach I'm implementing here. I'm going to verify if the incoming activity, the host activity, is having the instance of handle callback. It, it will verify the incoming host activity or where the fragment is got attached. Does it have a handle callback method implemented, or I mean the class implemented or the interface implemented? If it is there, it will pass the reference to this object or the declaration. You need to typecast it because it doesn't know the incoming activity does contains this object or not. Now the handle callback has a kind of value reference through the host activity. Now it can report the method called onComposeDone. So title and message. What is the title? Also prefer to be a global one. Can be a final also, but okay. Title get text to string. Whatever the value typed, it will simply send it back to send the particular values through the onComposeDone method. So wherever this onComposeDone method is implemented, will receive the value. It is nowhere, of course, it is going to be in main activity only. So this activity is called a host activity. As far as these two fragments, I'm going to implement handle callbacks. The abstract method gets implemented, and I have onComposeDone here. So the fragment already calls a method onComposeDone whenever the user presses the save button. So it will be, the values will be landing here. So the compose message fragment reported the value to a host activity. Now it's up to the host activity, send it to the respective place. Okay, so the compose message fragment, assuming it is sending the data to a host activity. Now the host activity should send it back to the another fragment where the list view we have implemented. It's called of course we have adapter for that. It is called SMS message. I'll have a setter getter method, as I said, in order to give access to a private member. So when a new SMS value is set, I can make sure the adapter is updated. Notify data set change. That's enough. Okay, so this need a set message. Okay, now the main activity can access them because already the SMS list fragment is global here, the object is already available. Now capture, I'll have a local instance in order to update it. The code I'll copy from here itself. Don't repeat. get SMS messages will give a current SMS messages. The incoming SMS messages is being list title and messages being passed to a hash map, and it is added to existing SMS messages, and finally set. So already existing values captured, and at the end a new hash map entry has got added, and finally we set the value to SMS list fragment. And of course here also I need to make sure the moment it call the handle callback, the title set text, so set to blank, both set to blank, and main activity, the moment a new item has got added, we can change the pager to current item to 0. I mean it will automatically move to the first pager fragment, the index 0, and of course the list. So it will look like as you fill the form and automatically change to the different view. Okay, so now everything looks fine. I'm going to compose it. Some message. When I click save, it automatically came to the pager, the index 0, I mean the very first pager, and it added that entry as well. So I can keep composing them by using either swipe. I can simply come and swipe and do a compose. It will come here. So a fragment now talks to another fragment through the host activity. The host activity does the controlling, and this is a right approach. If your code logic slightly becomes complex and you want to maintain the modular approach, saying that the fragment could also be independently called by some other activity, it is better to have this approach instead of directly calling and routing your call through the host activity objects. For that, this particular interface helps me to handle the data between the fragment to host activity. Now you might have understood what is the use of an interface. I already told you interface works when it gets connected to certain object or when it finds a place to get implemented. You may be wondering, an interface with just one abstract method which doesn't have any body, how far it is going to be helpful for me. Of course it is very helpful here. You may be understanding now. It does the interface job, mean it worked as an interface between a fragment and a host activity. It took the data from here, and of course using its one of an abstract method, when it find a place to get implemented, it became active and injected the value to the host activity. Similar approach we are going to do much now. You need to have a lot of kind of imagination in order to how object routing could be done. So this is for having the data to be populated. Since there is no database, if I close and reopen, of course this will disappear, but it is still better to start. Now I need to give an option to edit and delete. That also I will do it. I'm going to keep it under the context menu. The context menu, you know that the context menu would pop up when and some widget or either list view or any button is long press. I'm going to keep that part in long press. And also um, because the single click is already is there for item selection, so I don't want to disturb that one. So when a person long press, he will be getting a kind of context menu, or it will look like a dialog. He will be given option to edit or delete. So edit will take him to read a message. He can edit it and again set save, and he can go back. The edit screen is nothing, it's going to be the same one, but I'm not going to call this view or this view page. I'm going to call it as an external activity so that it can be called. So another variation also comes here. One of a fragment which is used inside the pager is going to independently work now without the pager, and it is going to be as an activity also. So how we are going to do that part? Of course, there are various ways to do it. A fragment in runtime can be created in this way. So these fragments are just a classes. The UIs were created using the fragment classes. A fragment can also be defined or declared in XML file, or a fragment can be attached to a layout like a placeholder layout such as a frame layout. So anything, any other alternate ways also possible in order to achieve that. So let me see if I can have the context menu on board first, because context menu is going to listen the long press of a list view. You can keep the context menu anywhere, uh, like because the list view is here only. The list view is defined in a fragment, so a context menu can be here also. So it can detect the long press option and call an activity and handle the callbacks. So it can be here as well, or it can be here also. Whatever way you feel it is comfortable, you can do it. Let me do that inside the SMS list fragment itself. On create context menu. Okay. Any group, I don't want to group. Item ID, see it is a runtime menu creation, so I do not inflate any layouts. So maybe I can give my own ID. Order, let it be 0, giving edit. Sorry. This will make sure a context menu is created for you, but the context menu will be visible only when it is registered with a certain element. So maybe here register for context menu, I'm going to give it list view. So a list view items, if long press, the context menu would appear. We would like to verify before implementing. On select on context item selected, this will handle the callback of your context menu selection. Before, we would like to verify whether it works or not. Okay. So a single tap or maybe a press will handle the toggle between the selection. A long press should bring a context menu. So edit or delete, I can go ahead and select and handle the callbacks accordingly. Right now I haven't captured that. Adapter adapter context menu info is needed. Only two I have, so I'll keep with the position equal to 0. It is for edit. We already know these steps, so we have already uh, learned about how the context menu with respective to a list view works. We need adapter context menu info because we are listening an adapter implementation, and from the adapter I am detecting the position of the selection. If you are using cursor adapter or any other thing, accordingly it will give you a position or ID accordingly. So forget that part. If we implement the database thing, we will come to know. Now edit. This edit is going to populate the message and also ability to edit it, also going to give an ability to edit it, and one of the important point is this edit is going to bring the same view, this particular view. This is already we have created, but this particular fragment is part of a pager, but now I'm going to call this fragment as a separate activity. I'll give a small hint, or maybe I'll write a small snippet. Later part will continue after the break. How I'm going to call them independently. As I said, there are various ways. One I'm going to use we'll use a frame layout. I'm going to say SMS edit, give activity SMS edit, something. This frame layout is going to be a placeholder for my fragment to sit. Frame layout usually is a stacked view, similar to a relative layout I can say, but without having the top, right, left or bottom position defined. Assume in a relative layout, if you do not define these properties, a relative layout will keep all the widgets or any other views on the top of another. You may have noticed it. It will overlap with another one. The same way the frame layout is going to work. Otherwise, you can literally imagine a photo frame. So anything you put inside the photo, assume you have put a bigger photo which occupies the entire width and height of a frame, the bigger photo will be displayed. Now you put a small photo, both the photos will be displayed, whereas the bigger photo will be displayed on the top, a smaller photo will be displayed. Like that, a frame layout is going to attach a stack. If size is different, you can see the other layout also. If the size is same, of course the topmost layout only would be visible. Frame layout usually considered as a placeholder layout, means a frame layout is just a container. Anything we create in runtime we will attach to it. Otherwise, if you want to have a stacked view, you can use a frame layout. I'm going to give an ID because I'm going to need it, because I'm in runtime I'm going to attach some fragment. Some name SMS edit placeholder, something I've given here. Yes. Edit SMS, something like that. Okay, couldn't think of any. It's an activity. Okay, it has a frame layout. So before, I would like to call the action bar also. I'm trying to give a back navigation on the top of action bar. That's the reason I kept the title back. Set display home as up enabled. Clicking it, it will take you the previous state. It will take you to the home. So naturally, it will disappear. So I'm going to make it as true. So it is going to display it. This is specific to action bar. We will test it before going ahead. Remember, action bar is option menu based. So you need to have a on option item selected. Otherwise, you cannot listen the clicks of on the top of an action bar. This is really important. I put a item get item ID equal to the home button default ID is can be found in such a way android.r.id.home is a default ID. The value is, if you notice, is a slightly bigger value, and when a home button is pressed, that's the reason display home as up enabled. It's a home button, but it is going to do a up enable, mean a small arrow will be there, so it will take you to back position because I'm going to finish the activity, current activity. So an action bar is a option menu area where a particular button gets clicked. It will call the on option item selected and it will take you back. Before doing anything, we need to have a entry to our manifest. This warning, I'm going to disregard it. So SMS list fragment. When a user click on edit, as usual, I am going to need a intent I need to call get activity, I mean the host activity, and SMS class start activity for result or activity. We will see it which one would be fine for us, but as of now I'm going to keep a start activity. Time to run and test. So this is okay, and long pressing it, I think it doesn't detect. Let me see the ID is I'm correctly calling or not. Oh, sorry, I have ID, hard-coded ID. This ID we have kept it here. I was assuming slightly longer one. So instead I don't need this context menu stuff because this will be needed only to take my messages out. So item, 1 second. This will do it. Of course I need it to pass a bundle an object of a particular list which is getting clicked. We'll come back to it. Okay. Now a new activity is launched. Of course, just a frame layout we have, we do not have anything attached. Now if you notice, the back arrow is there for you, and clicking back will finish the activity. So a longer press takes you to a newer activity, which already contains a back navigation enabled for you. So this action bar would be of much helpful, which keeps your code much cleaner and gives a clear navigation pattern for your application. In this block, inside the frame layout, I'm going to call the second fragment, because the same fragment I can use it for edit purpose as well. Not only for compose, I can use the same for editing as well. So I'm going to call that fragment alone in this activity, whereas the main activity already contains that fragment for composing a message. I'm going to use the same for delete purpose as well. We will see the example after the break, and I'll give option to edit and delete. Then we'll wind up this exercise. Tomorrow we will attach the database part with that, and of course the broadcast receiver. We will continue this after the break.